What's good? I'm Marcus, and in today's video, we're going to talk about Brian Flores filing a class action lawsuit against the NFL. I don't know. Saw this coming. I think anybody who didn't see this coming down the pike is just extremely privileged and not paying attention to what's going on. Let's go ahead and rap about it. Yo, this video not gonna be crazy edited and all this stuff because one, I'm just kind of giving my first impression. I did write, just my thoughts down because I wanted to have some structure. Otherwise, your boy will be sitting here rambling all day. First thing I'm gonna get out of the way is, hey, this is just a disclaimer, the disclosure. On this channel, we talking finances, money, follow my debt-free journey. I am a licensed attorney, but I'm not your attorney. This isn't legal or financial advice. Just giving you all my personal opinion and letting y'all know what's going on financially in the household of the debt-free dad. Class action lawsuit. Let's talk about what a class action lawsuit is. Rule 23. This is going to be technical, the first part, because I just want to get it out the way. Rule 23 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedures. A class action lawsuit is where one person or set of individuals represent a class of people who all suffered the same legal harm. In order for a class action lawsuit to be filed, four things have to happen. The class has to be so large, or the group of people who have a harm have to be so large that joining all of them together to file the case would be a pain in the you know what. The next thing is that they have to have the same question of law or the same facts and circumstances surrounding the lawsuit. The third thing is that the claims and defenses would have to be the same. So Brian Flores is representing a class of African Americans who haven't been getting head coaching jobs. They all have the same claim. They all would have the same claim. So that's essentially what that point. And the last is that the person representing the class or the individuals representing the class can represent the class fairly to protect their interests. So I think all of those things are clearly checked. There's no way that you're gonna have every black head coach who didn't get a job, even though they were qualified, weren't going. So this is definitely the way to do it. Now, understanding with a class action lawsuit, if there's continued harm, that could prolong or extend the statute of limitations, but they shouldn't have any issues there. The other thing that's going to be important to get away out the all the technicals out of the way is certification of a class. After a class action lawsuit is filed, you have to certify a class. Essentially, certification of a class means we have to find out and understand how large this class is, how far did this class of individuals go back. So that's going to be interesting to see how far do they determine that the class of harms for people not for African Americans not getting head coaching jobs goes back. I mean, I can think all the way back to, I mean, you got Hugh Jackson and before him, what was the old coach of the 49ers, even though he was kind of trash. But the establishment of the class is going to be interesting to see how far they go back, what coaching, what time period of coaches who, black head coaches who weren't getting jobs, get certified in this particular class. Okay. And so, hey, it is an unprecedented lawsuit. But the interesting thing to me when I first saw the story is, the pundits on TV saying, "Oh, this is unprecedented. I wouldn't have saw this coming in a million years." Anybody who didn't see this lawsuit coming is blind and just wasn't paying attention. You have for black individuals in the NFL and throughout life in general, before we even dive in, you always have to raise the bar, then jump the bar to get the bar raised to a high level. At one point, they said, "Oh man, blacks can't play quarterback because it requires a lot of decision making." And they had a stupid Wonderlic test to see how fast you can multiply and divide, even though playing football is just playing football and is a skill that really doesn't have anything to do with multiplication or division. So that once we kind of jumped that hurdle, then the next thing was, oh, have to be assistant coaches and head coaches. So then you had a flux of African Americans becoming defensive coordinators. Then the game became more offense. Oh, you got to be an offensive coordinator. Then we jumped that hurdle. We started becoming offensive coordinators. Well, now we've met all these requirements, but we still aren't getting the jobs. I mean, considering 70% of the NFL players are African American, And of the owners there, I think there's only two minority owners. There's a woman owner, and I think Shah Khan, if he still owns a team. But in any event, we always have to jump the hurdle. They set a ball, and we jump it again. And even when we jump that ball they set, all they do is move the ball high. So let's kind of talk about it. The first thing I want to talk about is salute to Brian Flores. I'm gonna clap it up for him because we gotta realize how hard it is to do the right thing, knowing that you are going to lose your livelihood, knowing that you are going to lose your job. And I don't care if you make millions like Flores was making, or if you make $20 an hour or $15 an hour. Most people aren't willing to make that sacrifice. I'll tell you, me personally, I can talk from experience because I got fired from a job before for identifying and pointing out something that was wrong. I already knew once I did that what was going to happen, but I was just willing to make that sacrifice. And the funny thing about people who make that sacrifice, I'm sure he probably talked to people like I did. And when I talked to people, a lot of people said, man, just do what they want and keep your head down. But salute to Brian Flores because he not built like that. I wasn't built like that. He decided to do the right thing. This brother is 40 years old. As a head coach, you got head coaches coaching in their 60s, 70s. So his whole career is in front of him, and he put that all at risk for the betterment of people, African Americans who are coming up behind him, who's qualified to be head coaches. So we definitely going to salute that. All right. The next thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm just glancing over at my notes because I don't want to miss nothing, is I actually think it was smart to file why there were still head coaching vacancies out there, first and foremost. A lot of people was like, well, the Saints still have an opening and all these other teams still have an opening. Maybe he'll get one of those jobs. Nah, I think that him filing right now while there are still vacancies is definitely the perfect time to file because the first thing that it does is one, all of those African Americans who are assistants, like Eric Benamy, my man's from DC, Byron Leftwich out in Tampa, all of those guys is really going to push them to the forefront because what happens in most times when you point out a wrong, there's a rush effort to do something to change the perception as if that wrong is not being done. So I wouldn't be shocked if one of those brothers, one of those, some up and coming assistant or coordinator actually lands a job because this litigation is filed. Because hey, when you say, "Hey, y'all not hiring black people, y'all not hiring black coaches," the first thing a lot of people would do is like, no, let's get the best black coordinator we could find, so we can say that's not us, that's somebody else." So I think it was smart of him to file a lawsuit because at the end of the day, this doesn't impact his lawsuit at all. Even if he files this lawsuit, let's say two black coordinators end up getting hired and it increases the percentage of black coaches in the NFL, all he's gonna say is, "Hey, this is just window dressing. This is like you reaching for a cookie in a cookie jar before dinner. You get caught with your hand in the cookie jar, so you pull it out slowly." That's all this is. So I think it was definitely smart, and I think it also helps other coordinators, brothers who are coordinators out there, minorities who are coordinators out there. I think the other thing is, let's just be realistic. You have to be real. You don't think when you are filing a lawsuit against the NFL, an organization, an entity that has hundreds of millions, billions of dollars as a collective entity, as a company, which is a nonprofit, but that's a whole nother story. But when you file a lawsuit against a company like that, best believe that these guys have done their due diligence. I guarantee you 100% Brian Flores, his attorney, his counsels, because you got millionaires fighting billionaires. That's essentially what this battle is. I guarantee you that Brian Flores and his attorneys have talked to the Hugh Jacksons, have talked to. I guarantee that there's been conversation amongst black coordinators in the league. So everybody is on the same page that this is what we are going to do. So you need to know how this could impact you. Because to do that, to move forward and not have those conversations, you're setting yourself up for failure. When you are going for the head of the snake, you better have a damn plan or you're going to get bit. So I believe I 100% guarantee that a vast majority of African Americans in the coaching ranks in the NFL past, present, future, the whole nine were informed as to what's going on because they wanted to have a collective effort. So best believe that those brothers were prepared. Now the other thing is when you file these lawsuits, you are protected against retaliation. That's how the law works, but we all know that's not how people play. We all know what happens. You file a lawsuit, you challenging me, I'm coming for you. You'll be blackballed. You'll never play again. Let's take a look at. I don't know if you all remember the concussion lawsuits. RG3 filed a lawsuit, and then the next thing you know, a team offered him a job, and he went to go play for that team. And once you go play for that team, that's kind of a wrap. So remember that, he is protected from retaliation, but we know how it works in the real world. There will be retaliation. So again, salute to him for standing up, being able to take it. Now, the other thing that is interesting, and I heard some pundits talking about, is oh, it's going to be difficult for him to get a job because he breached the trust of the NFL for his own personal gain. I call BS on that. Somebody was like, oh, unless he got Bill Belichick's permission. So essentially, what happened is Giants had a coaching vacancy. Bill Belichick text Brian Flores, Brian Flores used to work for Bill Belichick. Belichick text Brian Flores and was like, "Hey, congratulations. Sources tell me that you got the job in New York at the Giants." And he was like, "Oh, really?" He was like, "Bet." Now this time he got this text. He didn't even have his interview yet. But that's what raised the red flags. And apparently Belichick was like, "Ooh, I meant to text Brian Dabo or whoever is the guy they hire who's probably going to be trash." But he said, I meant to text him. But that text message showed that and verified that the Giants already had their selection before Brian Flores, before the brother even went up there to do an interview. And so these pundits were talking about, yeah, it's going to be hard for him to get a job. It's going to be hard for him to get a job because he's going to get blackballed because most of the teams and people in power are old white men. Let's just keep it real. It is what it is. But they was like, oh, he breached the trust. He put a text message that Bill Belichick sent him in a lawsuit for his own personal gain. It's not for his own personal gain. It's for a wrong that's being done across the board. That's a violation of an individual's civil right for discrimination. So salute to him. Damn the breach of trust. That same nonsense that they talking that he broke the breach of trust that all of us NFL guys are a team. That's the same BS that you hear shady cops and shady anybody say like, oh, we got to stand up for one another even though it's a wrong. To hell with that. So anybody who's talking about the breach of trust and it's going to impact his ability, yeah, that's a true thing, but that's some BS. He did what he needed to do. Like I said, this brother's 40 years old. As a head coach, as a coach, he got 30 years potentially of coaching in front of him. So salute to him for standing up. All right, now second thoughts. Um, we already know what the deal is. When you look in the NFL, you see white coaches get recirculated all the time. You know how many times I'm tired of seeing some coach who was a head coach back in the 80s or the early 90s who really wasn't that great, who come up and just gets recirculated. Let's look at Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels came from up underneath Bill Belichick. He sucked in Denver. He got caught recording the 49ers workout. And what happened? He actually got offered a job, took the job, then rescinded the job. Then what happening today? He's up front to get the job at the Raiders. That doesn't happen. We don't get those opportunities on opportunities, especially after sucking, cheating, taking a job, then saying I don't want to take the job. That's a privileged thing. We all know that happened. Also, who's the next coach I saw that they were thinking behind? Josh McCown. Like he's a head coach in high school, never no NFL coaching experience. He's a front runner for a job. I mean, it gets kind of crazy, especially when you look at the numbers. 70% of the league is 70% of the league is African American. That's just kind of, what it is. But these coaches just get circulated, circulated, circulated. If you are a brother, you get one shot. After that one shot, that's a wrap. And I mean, let's look at what Brian Flores did. We all thought the Dolphins was trash. Second half of the season, they finished like 8-1. I mean, something crazy. Like that dude single-handedly turned it around, but he did not get a job. I mean, they're like, "Oh, you did a great job, but we're gonna let you go." It's crazy. That's just kind of what it is. Now, my third thoughts on this, and this is just my thoughts in a nutshell as soon as I'm hearing about it. We already talked about 70% of the players being black. Uh, the head coaching numbers or the people in general managers positions in the NFL, it doesn't equate with statistically the population in the United States. 70% of the players are black. 13% of the U.S. population is black. I mean, the numbers just don't bear out. 70% of the players are black, but damn near 99.9% of head coaches and general managers and owners to that effect are white. It is what it is. Most times it's, old white men. So, I mean, I'm not shocked when I hear an accusation that an old white man in charge of something has done something racist. That's just, I mean, call it what it is. That's kind of what it is. That's where racism typically happens. So I had to get a swig of water. I've been talking to him for a minute. The other thing is, let's talk about the evidence that they're going to get. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out in discovery. I tell you, I've been in the legal profession for well over a decade. I've led investigations. People in general, especially older white people, I guarantee you there are email communications, there are text messages out there where they are discussing, we're going to interview this person just to comply with the Rooney Rule, but we're not going to hire them. Where they already, I mean, I guarantee you all of that information is out there. So that's going to be really interesting when we see what comes out. Let's just think about it. We got a John Gruden was cut and got up out of there because all his little racial and all his little racial and homophobic emails came out, and they have all these hundreds of thousands of emails. That is rampant across the board. It's rampant across the board. So there's definitely going to be enough evidence out there. I think hard evidence that points to, yeah, these dudes aren't complying. They got their picks. They describe. I guarantee you. I feel fairly confident that they'll find actual direct and circumstantial evidence to support that. The other thing is the evidence is hiding in plain sight. The really the most daunting evidence is the statistical evidence that you got. If you take a look and say, hey, at the past 4 or 5 coaching cycles, the look if you take a look, excuse me, if you take a look at the past 4 or 5 coaching cycles, see what the total number of vacancies are, select the how many qualified or what we deem as qualified African Americans for the job, and just go down the line. Was the hire white or black? White or black? Was it a white person or was it a minority? Was it a white person or was it a minority? I mean, statistically, we already know what the numbers are. So I don't think that, aside from, I guarantee you, they'll probably find a bunch of emails and texts out there that corroborates the statistical data that they don't have any goddamn plans on hiring any black head coaches. But that's just kind of the reality of it. I tell you, when I was coming up in law school as a young attorney, and you would have all these big law firms come and do the interviews at the historically black college. And when they got offered a job, a partner, a guy I met, brother who worked at this big time firm, he already told me what it was. He was like, "Hey, you get a job, you in law school, they paying you something crazy like." It's something crazy like $3,000 every 2 weeks, 4,000. They was paying you something crazy because they want that word to get out of how great their firm is and how they paying people. But this brother told me what it was. He was like, a lot of time they like to bring minorities on board for internships because then when they have them on the books, those people will satisfy the minority hiring quota that they set. So they can keep these people on. They only have to keep them on for 3 to 4 months over the summer period. They satisfy the quota, then they can kind of let them go and move out there. And I seen the damage that caused. I seen somebody get a job at a big time law firm. They go back every summer. Every summer, things is looking great. They think they got a job and they pass the ball, and that firm don't hire them. Then the next thing you know, you out there looking goofy because everybody looking at your resume like, damn, you worked at this firm for 3 years over the summer and they ain't hire you. What's wrong with you? So, when I had that opportunity to go to a big firm, I was like, nah, I'm not about to play this game where y'all could potentially put me in a position, not because of anything I did, where I'm out here looking goofy because y'all want to make some hiring quota. So that type of stuff exists across the board. And I think to close out, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. The sad reality is that the owners of these NFL franchises honestly don't have to hire us. And the reason they don't have to hire us is because they are content the way the system is set up is they got us working as players. 70% of us as players, that's where they feel people can make the most impact. Think about it. Everybody who's, oh man, Tom Brady retiring. Now you hear everybody saying, we're going to give Tom Brady 70% of the credit and Bill Belichick 30% of the credit. So owners, GMs, their philosophy is players on the field matter more than coaches. And I think a lot of people probably would agree with that. So as long as they can pigeonhole us as to being the most dynamic people on the field, their thoughts is we don't have to give them a head coaching job. Now, should they give them a head coaching job? Hell yeah, they should, because these guys are qualified to do it. They out here, they actually won at the head coaching level and still can't get a job. The shit is honestly sad. And really, the only thing that is going to change it, and people talk about, oh, in order to, I heard one commentator say, in order to hire black coaches, you have to have black general managers and black owners. And that is 100% true, but it's actually jacked up. The best person should get the job. The best person should get the goddamn job. But the other thing is, that's sad. It's sad that, a lot of times it's the buddy buddy system, is the good old boy system. And honestly, owners actually see us, and I'm not going to use the plantation analogy, but they do see players as a commodity. You are a player on my team. I can trade you, I can put you on the bench, I can, get you to go out and work. That's how they view us. They don't view black players on the field as anything other than a commodity and what's a means to an end. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this stuff plays out. If I had to call it early, I personally think when Discovery come out, statistically, all the data is there to show that the Rooney Rule is BS. Teams just interview to comply with the rule, and they already know who they're gonna hire, even if it's an unqualified person, they'll pick them over a qualified minority. I think statistically the data is already out there that shows that. I think the issue is going to come in once they determine the class or certify the class of individuals in this lawsuit. That's going to be the first thing that is going to be interesting. The second thing is going to be when we get to discovery, because I'm telling you, I guarantee I've seen it hundreds of times when Discovery comes in. Is all sorts of text messages and emails and handwritten notes. All that shit gonna come out. I mean, come on, John Elway showing up to an interview late and they all drunk because they was out the night before. And the reason they did that because they knew they weren't hiring that damn guy. They was like, oh, let's just go ahead and get it on the book. So when they come ask us about the Rooney Rule, we could check that box. Say we interviewed another brother, but we went with somebody who was more qualified. So I'm definitely expecting the discovery to really blow things up. Um, when it comes to these type of lawsuits, I think it's going to be a settlement, but I also think it's going to be advantageous to the Byron Leftwiches and the Eric Benamy, because I tell you, in Blind Flores' case, it may, in the immediate future, I'd be shocked if he got a head coaching job. But I think it's gonna keep him in the coaching ranks. I think a lot of teams are gonna scramble to not look like they a bunch of racist, you know what? And so they're gonna scramble. They're gonna try to hire some of these qualified black coordinators. I think that puts Eric Benamy in a good position to where he can at least get a job. If one of the if Byron Leftwich gets put on as a head coach, you don't think he's going to look and be like, "Come on, Flores, you can come roll with me." So I don't think he lose anything right now. African Americans are stuck in coordinator land. I think by doing this, I don't think he loses his spot in coordinator land for the immediate sake. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. The discovery is going to be big. I think a lot of stuff is going to come out in discovery, determining how far back they're going to go. What's the class of plaintiff's going to be is going to be interesting, because I can always think back to Hugh Jackson getting screwed in with the Raiders to how far back this kind of went. And the last thing is, I think the NFL gonna have to just pay that bag out. I think that's gonna be ultimately how this results, because I mean, just in a court of public opinion, I don't think anybody would disagree that black head coaches or black coaches in general haven't been getting a fair shot. That's just kind of what it is. So that's just kind of my first take on it. As a jacked up system, it is what it is. But salute to Flores for being having a heart to jump out there, knowing that he risking his career. He a young man who got a long career ahead of him. I hope it works out for him. But yeah, I'm gonna keep y'all posted as to how things develop, in my opinion. But it is what it is, man. These guys who are owners are old ass white guys, and a lot of times, if you old and white, is a good strong probability that you probably got some, you know, racial tendencies. It's not uncommon to see those emails come out. How many times the owner of the Clippers said all he said exactly on audio how he felt about the players. They look and view African Americans as a commodity, and hopefully this lawsuit is a way to shake things up to hopefully get some diversity. That's why I'm really looking forward to like somebody like LeBron James, who we all know wants to be an owner. I know at one point Diddy and some other folks were talking about, hey, let's try to pull our resources and buy a team. Michael Jordan, who down with the Bobcats. That's really going to be it. We had to get those changes at the top to make sure that anybody below could get a fair shake. Because if we rely on old people with old ass racist ideologies to give us a shake, it ain't gonna happen. Y'all take care. Hey, hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. Take care. Peace.